AITA for getting perfect revenge on my unfaithful wife and her lover? If someone had told me that, 5 years after graduating high school, my high school sweetheart would cheat on me or have another relationship while we were engaged, I would have thought it was a joke. I supported her financially while she pursued better opportunities. During high school, I was known for being focused, intelligent, attentive, and highly active in various groups. By the time I finished high school, I was in excellent physical condition. The only sport I participated in was wrestling, which I enjoyed because it allowed me to eat without restrictions and easily burn calories during matches. Some might compare it to football, but football workouts have intervals and are not as physically demanding as wrestling. Plus, wrestling doesn't involve the direct impacts to the head that can destroy your brain. I was dating an attractive girl, older than me, who had graduated 2 years prior and was attending a university in another state. We maintained a long-distance relationship with the hopes that I would join her at the same school after my graduation. We met at a friend's birthday party when we were both in other relationships. She arrived with her boyfriend, but that night she went home with me, and we slept together the first time we met. Later, she convinced me to leave my girlfriend for her. While our connection wasn't strong, her physical attractiveness played a significant role in my decision. She assured me that she would end her relationship with her boyfriend, which she eventually did. After graduation, I proposed, and we got engaged with the hope of getting married once we both completed our postgraduate studies. I decided to enroll in the same university as her. She was pursuing a bachelor's degree in nursing, while I was in a pre-med program aiming for a biology degree and then applying to medical school. During our college years, my fiancé and I rented an off-campus apartment close to the university. Initially, we both worked part-time while studying. I had the advantage of a 4-year academic scholarship that covered most of our expenses, so the financial burden fell more on her. Our parents didn't come from wealthy backgrounds and struggled to support themselves, so we were basically on our own. Around her 3rd year in college, she faced academic difficulties. She had always been a B- student, and she was having trouble keeping her grades high enough to be admitted into the nursing program. She needed to improve her academic performance. She approached me, expressing her desire to work fewer hours and focus more on her studies, believing this would help improve her grades. At that time, I reflected on our relationship and my commitment to supporting her. I recognized that, as a couple, we should support each other. I didn't want her to risk being kicked out of the nursing program because of her poor grades. It was important to me that she could focus solely on her studies as she was really dedicated, but was finding it difficult to balance work and school. Unlike her, I worked long hours, sometimes up to 60 hours a week, to cover expenses like our health insurance, rent, and utilities. My commitment to both work and school took a toll on my health. Despite having a full academic scholarship, I still had to maintain a high GPA and a minimum number of credits to remain in the program. My usual routines and discipline, which helped me stay in great physical shape, went out the window. I used to train with the university's wrestling team for over 2 years to stay in shape. However, wrestling didn't offer much opportunity beyond the Olympics or MMA, which are not financially rewarding unless you are at the top. As I started working extra shifts to support my fiancé, I gradually started missing practices and eventually stopped working out altogether. I was still consuming the same amount of calories as before, so it wasn't long before I gained between 70 and 80 pounds. As our relationship deteriorated, there were times when she would disappear and not answer my calls. Instead, I would receive text messages and automated responses like, "Can't talk right now." I was so busy with school and work that I didn't have time to confront her. Looking back, there was one occasion when I called her and heard a man's voice in the background, along with heavy breathing. When I asked her about it, she immediately hung up. I called her several times, and she didn't answer. When she finally called me back, she claimed she was at the gym and some guy was bothering her. It was odd, because I knew for sure she didn't go to the gym at the time I called her. Still, I trusted her and didn't investigate further. Despite all the added responsibilities, I managed to graduate with my bachelor's degree a year ahead of schedule. However, she still had 2 more years to complete her nursing program. After obtaining my undergraduate degree, we decided that I would take the medical school entrance exam, but postponed starting until she finished her nursing degree. Her program was almost complete, and medical school is significantly more demanding. I couldn't handle working over 60 hours and attending medical school simultaneously, and I wanted to avoid accumulating too much student debt. Our plan was for me to support her financially while she finished her nursing program, and then she would support me when I started medical school. This way, she could provide financial stability for our household while I studied, as there wouldn't be any financial support available to her if I started medical school immediately. At the time, it seemed like a great idea, but in hindsight, it was one of the worst mistakes I've ever made. There were several alternatives I could have considered, like encouraging her to apply for more loans to support herself while I focused on my goal of becoming a doctor. Sacrificing my future for her seemed reasonable at the time, as waiting 2 years until she finished nursing school and achieved stability before starting medical school seemed like a good plan. After all, I thought we would spend our lives together, so what was 2 years of sacrifice for the love of my life? I still believed it was a solid plan because she wasn't just anyone, she was my fiancée, and we lived together, sharing everything. About 6 months after I graduated, I was still working full-time at CVS Pharmacy, and she had about a year and a half left to become a nurse. Our relationship had changed significantly compared to how it used to be. I had suspicions that she was cheating on me because she would lie about things she had no reason to hide, and the lies kept piling up. Despite everything, I continued clinging to the hope that things would improve. In the end, I was still determined to pursue my dream of becoming a doctor, and I was preparing for my medical school entrance exam. Meanwhile, I was stuck working day in and day out as a pharmacy technician, waiting for my fiancée to finish school, which would take another year and a half. The bond between us was no longer the same as it once was. We found ourselves in frequent arguments where we exchanged words and barbs. She would call me immature and overweight, but I would remind her that without my financial support, she wouldn't have achieved what she had. We would threaten to leave the relationship, but I always ended up staying because I saw the potential of what we could become, not what we actually were. The reality was that she had completely changed from the girl I fell in love with. She would make all sorts of excuses to avoid spending time with me. Sometimes she wouldn't come home or answer my calls, only texting occasionally. In certain moments of clarity, I would remember my dreams, but my love for her would always convince me to keep doing it all for the both of us. Looking back, I should have pursued my dream regardless of the relationship. About 6 months before her graduation, I remember suggesting the idea of having a baby, thinking it might revitalize our relationship and rekindle our love. However, she quickly dismissed the idea, saying it wasn't the right time and that we should wait until she graduated in 6 months. 3 months before her nursing graduation, I returned from work one night to find all of her belongings gone. At first, I thought we had been robbed, but it was strange because only her things were missing, including items I had bought for her. I tried calling her, but she didn't answer. Instead, she sent me a text message explaining that our relationship was over and telling me where she had left the engagement ring. She informed me that she had moved on with her life and suggested I do the same. Her message was cold and calculated, devoid of emotion and consideration for the years we spent together or all the support I provided her during her 4 years of studies. There was no phone call, just a text message. I felt betrayed and humiliated. In my attempt to get answers, I messaged her, asking how she could do this to me. I reminded her of the years I had sacrificed for her and demanded what I felt I was owed. I called her numerous times, but she refused to answer and eventually blocked my number. It felt like a devastating scam that unfolded before my eyes. During the relationship, I had always considered her a person of average intelligence, but I came to realize that intelligence has many layers. I started to feel that she had manipulated and taken advantage of the love I had for her. In essence, our relationship felt like one of those catfish internet scams, but in person for 6 or 7 years. She used me to fund her education and then discarded me like trash, leaving me utterly broken. If it hadn't been for her, I could have finished my bachelor's degree in less than 2 years and been well on my way in medical school already. Her actions left me deeply distrustful and depressed, making it challenging to function normally or maintain my daily routine. 2 days after she blocked my number, I decided to wait for her outside the hospital where she worked, hoping to confront her face to face. I sat in my car until she emerged from the building. As she walked toward a brand new BMW, I approached her. Upon seeing me, she startled, ran to her car without making eye contact, and quickly drove away. I should have gotten the message at that point, but I didn't. Sadly, She had broken me so badly that I developed an unhealthy habit of following her movements, even when she didn't want anything to do with me. I began following her in my free time, spying on her activities without her knowledge, and this continued for a few months. I couldn't comprehend how my fiancée of 7 years had ended our relationship so abruptly. She pulled the rug out from under me without me realizing it. At the time, I was convinced that I could get her back, clinging to the belief that she was still mine, not realizing that she had moved on long before, even a year before officially ending things. In essence, I had been funding her lifestyle while she was searching for another partner. By the way, when I secretly followed her in her car and observed her without her knowing, initially, I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong. In my mind, I needed answers and closure. Looking back, I am not proud of that stage of my life. 3 days later, I found myself in the hospital parking lot again. I had returned to the same spot, in front of the hospital where she worked, intending to confront her once more. I waited inside my car for hours, aware of her usual work schedule, although sometimes she would stay longer than expected. Finally, she exited the hospital in her nurse's uniform and headed towards her new BMW. Initially, I had parked my car near the exit, planning to approach quickly before she could take refuge in her vehicle. However, as I opened my car door, I had a change of heart. Instead, I decided to discreetly observe her, without her knowledge, hoping to learn more about her current situation and the person who had bought her the car. I couldn't understand how she had been able to purchase it on her own, given that we had recently been struggling financially. That car had always been her dream car. She used to talk about it a lot. I followed her for over 45 minutes, moving away from the area I was familiar with and into an upscale neighborhood. I maintained a safe distance between our cars to ensure she didn't notice I was following her. Eventually, she pulled into the driveway of a house with a 4-car garage, and the garage door opened, concealing her car from view. I was stunned. She must be living with someone wealthy, because there was no way she could afford that on her own. Even with her nursing degree, it would take her years to reach that level of affluence. I believed there was more to the story, so I parked my car a few blocks away and waited. A short while later, another car approached the driveway, and one of the garage doors opened to allow it in. I couldn't see who it was, but curiosity consumed me. I couldn't resist the urge to investigate further. Night fell, but I thought maybe I could find a way to peer through a window. I got out of my car and approached the house, which was surrounded by a fence. I walked around the property, trying to find a gap to see through the fence. That's when I noticed security cameras monitoring the area. Realizing I was being watched, I turned around and left. I returned to my car and drove home. The next morning, I called in sick to work and went back early, hoping to follow the car that had entered the garage the previous day. I arrived around 6 a.m., knowing my ex-fiancée's shift started at 9 a.m. I hoped the other car would still be there so I could identify its owner. When I arrived, I wasn't sure if the other car had left, so I parked my car a few blocks away and waited anxiously, determined to uncover the person's identity. Thankfully, the garage door eventually opened, and the car emerged. I discreetly followed it to the same hospital. A man in his 30s stepped out. He looked familiar. He was wearing a suit. I decided to get out of my car and follow him, curious to learn more about him. I watched him enter an elevator and head to the 3rd floor. Without him noticing, I ran up the stairs and managed to catch up with him. I recognized him as the doctor I had seen roughly a year ago on my ex-fiancée's Instagram. She had shown me group pictures of her new co-workers, as she was quite active on social media, unlike me. There was a post featuring him when she started her clinical rotations. He was the doctor she had been working closely with, and in the group picture with other nurses she had shared on Instagram, he was there too. He entered his office, and later, he exited, dressed in his doctor's uniform. At that moment, I had no doubt. He was a doctor at the same hospital where my ex-fiancée was completing her clinical rotations. Since we had met over a year ago, who knows how long they had been involved. If I had had Instagram, maybe I would have noticed something. Now I was hesitant to download the app because I was afraid of what I might discover. Maybe I should have accepted the situation and moved on. A doctor had taken my girlfriend, and perhaps they had been seeing each other for over a year while I was still in a relationship with her. Lesson learned. Instead of waiting for me to become a doctor, she chose someone who already was one, someone with money. I couldn't compete with that. I was overweight, broke, about to turn 25, and with a biology degree that seemed worthless. I worked as a technician at a local CVS pharmacy. My car barely ran, and I had spent all my savings on my fiancée before she left me for a doctor. Depression consumed me, and the breakup shattered me as a man. I had never felt anything worse in my life. During that time, I no longer had any dreams or ambitions. It was truly a tragedy. I didn't even recognize myself. In my spare time, I found myself secretly following her. I followed her for several weeks without a clear reason I could explain. Looking back, the only reason I can give is that I was looking for closure, although I never attempted to confront them. Until one day, I was so careless that I fell asleep in my car on the same street where they lived. I was awakened by a knock on the window. It was my ex-fiancé's boyfriend, the doctor, with my ex-fiancée standing behind him. She had her phone camera recording the interaction. They wanted me to roll down the window. She was yelling hysterically, calling me creepy and demanding I stop following her and leave her alone. The confrontation lasted only about 5 minutes. I struggled to start my car while they yelled at me in a rage. I could barely understand what they were saying. The doctor asked me what was wrong with me and said they had already noticed me following them for a while, and they had been documenting it. He threatened me with a restraining order. The way he spoke, it was clear he thought I was just some guy obsessed with his new girlfriend. She must not have told him that we had been together for almost 7 years and were about to get married. To make things worse, I was trying to start my car, but it wasn't working. I kept trying while they continued yelling at me. The only thing separating us was the driver's window. They said they had seen me on the security cameras, and they had proof I'd been following them, with the intention of obtaining a restraining order against me. It was the most embarrassing moment of my life. Thankfully, my car finally started after what seemed like 1,000 attempts. I drove off feeling stupid and ashamed, seeing for the first time how pathetic my life had become. 2 days later, a process server handed me a restraining order for my ex-fiancée and her current boyfriend. Reality started to sink in, and I realized I could end up in jail if I continued my previous behavior. That was a wake-up call. So I stopped and began reorganizing my life, planning to go back to medical school. About a month after I received the restraining order, an ex-girlfriend from my past, whom I had left for my recent ex-fiancé, called me out of the blue. She wanted to talk about the news that my ex-fiancé was getting married to another man, something she had seen on social media. Since I didn't use any social media, I had no idea. Her call felt more like an opportunity to gloat, as I had left her for my ex-fiancé. She was still upset about being rejected, even though she was now married with kids. She told me I was a loser for leaving her and warned me that my ex-fiancé would ruin my life. She seemed happy that karma had caught up to me and hung up before I could even apologize. I had been trying to move on with my life, but this news rekindled all those emotions. And that was just the beginning. Not only did my ex-girlfriend call, but several mutual friends and people I had lost contact with also reached out, surprised we were no longer together. I even started blocking numbers because I knew exactly what they wanted to talk about. It was incredibly humiliating. Out of curiosity, I decided to download Instagram, the social media platform she spent a lot of time on when we were together. It seemed her new boyfriend used it quite a bit as well, as I saw he had posted thousands of pictures. In the 2 months they had been officially together, they had already traveled together twice. I also found pictures of them together from a year ago, meaning they had been dating for over a year while I was still engaged to her. She used to take pictures with me and post them on Instagram, but about a year ago, she stopped. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Now I understood why she did it. I noticed she had deleted all the pictures I was in and even edited me out of some images. She had removed me from her life a long time ago, while I was still supporting her financially. It's difficult to grasp how she could be so cold. While reviewing her Instagram, it became evident that, while we were engaged, she was still seeking attention from other men. During that time, her pictures became more provocative, and she started posting more suggestive images. I didn't notice any of that. Perhaps, if I had Instagram back then, I would have sensed something was wrong. Her profile was public, so I decided to follow her using a fake name and profile picture. This soon turned into an obsession of sorts, as I began closely monitoring everything she did online. However, everything came to a head when, one day, she posted that she was 5 months pregnant. This was strange because she had left me only 2 months ago. 5 months ago, she was still my fiancée, and although we weren't as close anymore, we were still together. I realized she must have been with both of us, me and the doctor, which left me wondering who the real father of the baby was. He had no idea about our past relationship. He probably thought I was just some guy obsessed with his new wife. I considered the possibility that the baby could be mine. However, she had assured me she was on birth control, which made me wonder if she had stopped taking it and been with both of us concurrently. Update: after learning that my ex-fiancée was 5 months pregnant, I realized there was a real possibility that I was the father. Financially, I wasn't prepared to support a child. Also, considering how my ex had treated me recently, she probably wouldn't want me around the child or to co-parent. It seemed like she was deceiving the doctor by not telling him the truth about me being her fiancé for 7 years. However, I didn't feel sorry for him. It was his responsibility to find out. Besides, I was still upset that he had encouraged my ex to get a restraining order against me without even knowing the whole story. I knew the truth would eventually come out, and I would be there to witness it all. So, I made the decision to move on and refocus my efforts on getting my life back on track. I filled my days with work and started going to the gym, carefully controlling my caloric intake and practicing intermittent fasting. Within a few weeks, I started shedding the extra weight. Also, I was joining spiritual support groups that emphasized yoga and meditation, allowing me to meet insightful and spiritual women. During this time, I faced difficulties in the dating scene. I hadn't dated anyone in over 7 years because my ex-fiancée had been my only partner during that entire time. However, I lacked motivation to date, often using the excuse that I was focused on my goals and consumed with medical school entrance exam preparation. The medical school I aspired to attend was conveniently located in the same city I lived in. I managed to lose around 40 pounds in just 2 months. People who had seen me a few months prior could barely recognize me. I focused on maintaining a clean and healthy diet, going to the gym regularly, and staying in my own space most of the time. I made a conscious effort to distance myself from mutual friends, changing my phone number and cutting ties. I wanted a fresh start. 5 months later, I successfully passed my medical school entrance exam and secured admission. My aim was to complete the degree in 3 years or less, and then embark on approximately 5 years of residency to fulfill my dream of becoming a surgeon. 2 years into medical school, which typically lasts 4 years, I had been taking extra credits and getting ahead of requirements. My life had become incredibly monotonous. My daily routine consisted of attending classes and tutoring for extra income, as I was basically a struggling medical student. It had been 2 years since my last relationship with my ex, so I decided it was time to start dating again, though I wasn't sure where to begin. For the past 9 years, my dating life had been limited to my ex-fiancée and the people I met in my daily activities. I ventured into online dating, specifically Tinder, but it proved frustrating. Most matches didn't lead to meaningful connections, and many people seemed fake or misrepresented themselves. After 7 months and little success, I deleted the app. Furthermore, I struggled with approach anxiety and social awkwardness, something many men can relate to. I explored the bar scene, but didn't find the success I was hoping for, so I turned to online resources like YouTube videos on motivation and self-improvement. This is how I discovered The Way of the Superior Man by David Data, a book that discusses various aspects of men's lives, and it helped me understand the differences between male and female behaviors. Another helpful book was The Red Queen by Matt Ridley, which explores mate selection and attraction. I learned a lot from these resources, but I needed practical experience. I committed to approaching attractive women for 1 hour a day. Initially, I struggled with approach anxiety. However, I learned about flow state and the importance of building momentum, which drastically improved my results. I frequented 2 different supermarkets over the course of an hour, and I managed to get at least 1 solid phone number from attractive women. In 21 days, I got 15 phone numbers, went on dates with 11 women, and 5 became regular friends with benefits. After about 3 months, I took a break from going out and approaching women, as handling so many messages and dates had become quite stressful. I had so many attractive women and so many dates at that point that I was the one starting to cancel them. I began to feel like the male version of a highly sought-after woman. At a certain point, I decided to stop it all because I was being intimate with too many different women, and it was starting to feel unhealthy. At my peak, I was seeing 9 women simultaneously. I didn't bother calling or texting them frequently. Instead, They were the ones reaching out and asking to spend time with me. I was in a state of abundance, and it's hard to describe with words, but I can only imagine it was similar to the life of a rock star, or perhaps an athlete. I didn't let this affect my studies, because I had a structured daily routine that included working out, studying, working, attending classes, dating, and maintaining intimate relationships. Any woman who didn't align with my schedule was someone I simply cut ties with. At this point, I was still going out for an hour, not because I wanted more women, but because I was addicted to the endorphin rush I experienced from facing my fears. One day, while at a supermarket doing my usual hour of approaches, I saw a woman with 2 kids. She was pushing them in a shopping cart, and she looked familiar. I thought she resembled my ex-fiancé, so I briefly followed her and called her name. She turned around, surprised to see me, and approached me. She even gave me a light hug, which caught me off guard. After letting go, she mentioned she recognized my voice, but not me. It had been over 2.5 years since she served me with the restraining order, and it felt like a lifetime. She explained she had tried to contact me, but couldn't find my information, so she eventually gave up. I asked her why she would want to contact someone she had taken legal action against, and she apologized, expressing her regret for how things ended between us. We talked about how she was doing, and she mentioned she was okay. I couldn't help but notice that she no longer looked as beautiful as I used to believe. I used to think she was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, but at that moment, she seemed average, and she had gained weight. It was hard to believe I had spent so much time following her and feeling heartbroken over our breakup when she no longer matched the type of women I was currently dating in terms of appearance. She must have noticed my indifference and seemed nervous, asking me several questions. After about 5 minutes of conversation, I tried to say goodbye and leave, but she seemed reluctant to end the chat. I mentioned I was in a hurry and needed to go, but she asked for my phone number and suggested we grab coffee sometime. I really didn't want anything to do with her, but at the same time, I couldn't get out of my head the possibility that the 2-year-old girl might be my daughter. Despite not wanting to see my ex-fiancé again, I still wanted the opportunity to find out if the child was mine, preferably through a paternity test without her knowing. We exchanged numbers and agreed to meet. 3 days later, I texted her to confirm our meeting. I was hoping she would bring the kids with her, so I planned to meet at a family-friendly park. She was already there when I arrived, and she tried to hug me, although I didn't reciprocate with much enthusiasm. She sat down with an awkward expression. I doubted she had told her husband that she was meeting with the man she had filed a restraining order against over 2 years ago. I sat down as well, and she began apologizing to me. She apologized for breaking up with me over text, for getting the restraining order, and for not fulfilling her promise to support me after the years I had supported her. She also mentioned that she noticed a change in my energy, seeing me as more assertive and in control. I asked about her job, and she said she was employed at a hospital across town. I tried to avoid mentioning anything about our past relationship altogether. Every time she brought it up, I tried to make it clear that I had moved on. Most of my questions were centered around the kids. I complimented her on how cute they were and asked if she'd be willing to take them to a water park the next day so I could see them again. She mentioned she wouldn't have time the next day due to work, but suggested we plan it for the following day. Throughout our conversation, she was clearly flirting with me, attempting to seduce me, but it had no effect on me. In the past few months, I've learned a lot about social dynamics and the importance of maintaining composure. Her suggestive remarks were a way of searching for any weakness in me, but I remained unfazed by her advances. The firmer I held my ground, the more she seemed to become submissive and attracted to me. I was already pretty busy, and I couldn't afford to waste time at a water park, but it was crucial for me to find out if the toddler was indeed mine. When the day arrived, she canceled, explaining that her younger daughter wasn't feeling well. We rescheduled for the following week. I had initially ordered a DNA sample collection kit, but decided against using it at the last minute because I didn't think I'd have the opportunity to utilize it without my ex-fiancé noticing. I consulted with a friend who is a genetic technologist, and we brainstormed ways to collect DNA samples together. Before the meeting, since it was summer and hot, we thought there might be an ice cream or smoothie bar nearby where I could discreetly collect a DNA sample using a straw or cup. I arrived early at the water park. It took them a while to get there, but when they did, I carried the 2-year-old while my ex pushed the stroller with the 1-year-old. I suggested getting them smoothies because of the heat. The atmosphere was friendly and relaxed, and she was very cordial with me. Anyone who saw us would have assumed we were a couple. We talked about a wide range of topics. We even joked about how they once found me sleeping in my car. She asked if I was in a relationship, and I answered affirmatively. When she asked if it was serious, I also confirmed it. She shared that her relationship with her husband wasn't as perfect as she had hoped, and that they were currently separated, attempting to reconcile. I didn't pry into the details or the reasons for their separation. My focus was to maintain a positive conversation, and I wished her well. My attention was on the 2-year-old, awaiting an opportunity to collect the straw after she was finished with it, hoping there would be enough genetic material on it. Despite the day's events, I hadn't forgiven her for how she treated me. I recognized she was still the same person, although I also admitted that I had created the opportunity for her to take advantage of me. After our conversation at the water park, I sensed that things weren't going well in her marriage, and she might be considering leaving. However, her husband seemed like her best option at that time, so she stayed with him. Something must have happened for them to separate, but I didn't bother to ask or care. In the end, I managed to collect the straw, and it seemed to have enough saliva on it. Following our time at the park, I called my friend, the genetic technologist I had consulted with earlier, as we had discussed this beforehand. I wanted him to take the sample to his lab as soon as possible. The next day, he tested the DNA sample, comparing it with mine, and it turned out that she was, indeed, my daughter. I wasn't entirely sure what to do next. I could expose my ex, sharing the DNA results with her husband, jeopardizing their chances of reconciliation, but that could lead to her attacking me, and I wasn't in a position to co-parent at that point. So I believed the best thing for my daughter was to be raised in a stable home. My residency would start in less than a year, which would provide me with some income, not much, but enough. After completing my residency in 5 years, I'd reevaluate the situation and stay in touch with my ex to see my daughter whenever she allowed me to. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.